Rev up your engines!
Well, you want a big old Dodge HEMI V8, you better hurry up and get one because they said they're going to stop making them by the end of 2023. They're going to replace it with GM ET6s. They're going for turbocharged 6-cylinder engines instead. Now, of course, you realize the HEMI V8 is a Dinosaur engine. Originally, it's called HEMI because of the hemispherical combustion chambers, and hemispherical is the most efficient use of space. Yeah, that was true back in the day, 60, 70, 80 years ago. They just kept sticking on to this design. Yeah, they put out a lot of power. Of course, they're tremendous gas hogs, and it's never going to fly with the governments and regulations. So, it was only a matter of time that they're going to be getting rid of it. Interesting enough, they're replacing them with that new 6-cylinder that they're coming out with. It's a straight 6-cylinder engine, so now they're kind of going back into the past, where that was a popular engine. Well, now that they got all turbos and modern technology, gasoline direct injection and all that stuff, they can get a lot more power out of a 6 than they normally could with a just regular aspirated one that doesn't have any of this fancy stuff on it. But it won't sound the same. There's no arguing that. Really, it was only a matter of time when the Dinosaur HEMI V8 went extinct, and now they say it's going to be 2023. And there'll be no more HEMI V8s for the insane people who want 700-800 horsepower engines to roar across the asphalt. Now, here's a suggestion where other people seem to agree with me. With all this problem with building cars and trucks, they don't have enough chips. Maybe use less chips, less of the crap that we really don't need in vehicles. These chips are Dinosaur chips. One of the reasons they're having a problem is the manufacturers don't even want to make these chips because they're cheap chips, they don't do much, and they're way in the past for the technology that they have for modern chips. Are pretty basic. They're working on pretty basic computer technology. Our phones and fancy watches, it's fancier than the stuff that's in the stupid cars. It's just that it's cheaper for them to make the cars that way. They're just using cheap chips to run stuff instead of having it all integrated correctly with chips that are more complex, but you don't need as many of them. If you look at the history of cars, they've added this electronic stuff on piecemeal. Little here, a little there, and we'll stick a chip here, we'll stick a chip there. I mean, let's look at a car. Some of these cars, like Mercedes, have over 100 little computer modules. Well, right, they could have one that run the whole thing, right? But no, they add all this stuff on, so they got all these little computers talking to a bigger computer. They could make them a lot better. Of course, then they have to redesign the whole thing, and they're not going to do that. They'll blame this chip thing on other people when they actually brought it upon themselves. If they would have designed them better, they wouldn't have had that problem. Sticking whatever they got lying around to make what they have work. Kind of reminds me of when I was young. The English were selling some sports cars that had two 6-volt batteries hooked together to make a 12-volt system. Well, it turns out the English had a whole bunch of 6-volt batteries on. They thought, well, we might as well use those up. So instead of putting a 12-volt battery in, let's put two 6s and hook them together to make 12 volts. Computers and cars are pretty much the same type of situation. They brought some of this stuff upon themselves by having archaic designs that are just rigged together to work. And really, do we need all these things? Do we need a car that you can kick the bumper and the trunk will open? There's a lot of this crap we really just don't need. Maybe don't answer that crap when you're buying a car. You're paying extra for it, and really, it's all going to break when it gets older, and then you're going to have to pull it open by yourself anyway. It's out again. I always find it amusing. The American Customer Satisfaction Review has come up with the top cars sold in America by new vehicle customer satisfaction ratings. Who came up with this stupid idea in the first place? How satisfied are you with your new car that you just got? I was satisfied by lots of things that fell apart a few months later, Then I wasn't satisfied at all, right? I guess things got so bad. So many people, I guess, were dissatisfied. Now they're just asking, are you happy with the car you just got? Now, interesting enough, Honda was number one. It's a good car company. Coming in the bottom was Chrysler Stellantis, which I kind of agree with there, But BMW came in second. Now, of course, you get somebody buying an expensive BMW. Oh, they're so happy with their expensive. Let's ask the people with the BMWs, 5, 10 years down the line. Of course, a lot of people with BMWs don't keep them that long. I've got neighbors that buy them. They get a new one every 5 years or 4 years. They got so much money they don't care, and they like the car. And it's got the bells and whistles on them, I mean, they look nice. They're fun to drive around, right? I had a guy the other day, neighbor, said he went with a friend's Tesla, and he was really impressed by the speed. He liked driving around and stuff. I said, yeah, you want to recharge it when you go on your long fishing trips all over North America, and then when it starts breaking and it takes you 6 months to get parts for it, you're not going to be happy then, right? But you're happy the minute you got it. The funny thing, though, saw was they put Toyota pretty much in the middle of the pack, which is kind of absurd. I guess the people who bought Toyotas, they know what they're getting, so, you know, they're not all excited because they know, I got a Toyota, it's not going to break, it's a good car. But they're not really excited like the people who bought BMWs. Oh, my new BMW, oh, yes, I'm so excited. Let's talk to them 8-10 years down the line. That's all I got to say. When they came up with the idea of these, how happy are you with your new car surveys? I mean, they're really digging to the bottom of the barrel on these ones. Taco Man 45 says, Scotty, I got no 07 Toyota Corolla. I get PO420 code, comes and goes. I smell exhaust, sounds like it's coming from the exhaust manifold in the back. It will run like that with that code from an exhaust leak. Problem is, when you get an exhaust leak, then you also get extra air injected into the system by the pressure going through, and it sucks some air in. That makes the oxygen sensors get false readings, and then it will trip a PO420 code. You can generally drive them a while that way. It's, you know, an old Corolla, and they'll probably run okay. Now, you want to crack your windows, you want to die of carbon monoxide poisoning. But it's better to fix it sooner than later, because over time, if you have problems like that, one, it could ruin the catalytic converter. You say you live in New Hampshire. I'm thinking, I don't know if they do car inspections there. If they do emissions inspections, it will fail. Now, if they don't do emissions inspection, well, then you just continue to drive around. It runs okay. But if you do want to fix it right, you're better to fix it sooner than later. Because running that way, especially with an exhaust leak, you can make the system run too lean, and eventually that will wear the inside of your engine. It runs hotter. If a car runs really lean, it'll run too hot, and eventually it'll damage internal components of the engine. Now, that takes tens and tens of thousands of miles to do that. It doesn't happen instantaneously. So, if it's too cold in New Hampshire now, I wait till the spring and fix it, but you would be better to fix it sooner than later. Petrolhead 1996 says, what does a bouncing spark advance at idle mean? It means you got a problem in your car. Car's idling. If your spark advance keeps moving around, you got a problem. Now, it could be anything from what does the spark advance is the crankshaft position sensor. Let's say your harmonic pulley is worn or a piece is broken. It'll wobble a little. You can check that easy. Take the fan belt off, grab it, and if it goes clunker clunker, you need a new harmonic balancer. It can also mean that your timing belt or chain is worn. It's going to flop around, and your timing is going to be off. So it'll bounce up and down. You want to check that too. That's the most common thing, especially if you got a timing chain. If the timing chain's worn, you're going to see the spark advance is going to bounce all over the place because it's got a problem. It's rare, but it can happen. If your ignition system's acting up and it's not firing correctly, most of them are basing their ignition timing on the number one cylinder. Let's say the number one cylinder coil's got a problem. It'll do that too. And of course, that's a simple fix. All you'd have to do is take the number one cylinder coil, take it off, put it on like number 4, put 4 on 1, and then if the spark advance on number 1 doesn't change anymore, you'll know that coil's bad and go to the number 4 coil and just replace it. A lot of tests you can do yourself just by swapping stuff. And that's a lot easier than putting a timing chain on an engine. Well, here we go with California and their innovation. Uber says they're going to start driverless food deliveries in California in 2022. Maybe it's their master plan. You know, they're having a problem getting people to drive for Uber because, hey, they don't make all that much money. It's a rough job, dangerous job, right? Maybe they're going to plan on getting rid of all the drivers and have Uber driverless. You know, it'd be like something out of Total Recall and the driverless taxis with robots driving them. Now, it's in Santa Monica, California. They're going to have a certain area delimited that the Ubers are going to be delivering your food by themselves. It's going to be a fleet of Motional self-driving cars. That's the company, Motional, that they're using. And they're going to be using the Hyundai Ioniq 5-based robo-taxi for delivering this food in the delimited area, of course. So old Uber Eats are going to have Uber robot cars delivering you food around Santa Monica for a while, starting in 2022. So I guess if your pizza shows up late and cold, you got no one to blame but the robotic car. Now, if you remember, previously, Uber looked into getting their own company for doing that, but they gave up on that. It was too complex. They're going to use this other company. So I guess if it screws up, they can blame them instead of themselves. It would be something interesting to see anyways. And you know, I mean, if I lived in an area like that, just for the heck of it, I'd try it once just to see how the thing worked. I'd make a cool video out of it. And I'd be hoping that the machine would screw up the whole time and it would make an even funnier video that more people would watch. If you're in the Santa Monica area in 2022 and they get this thing up and running, make a few videos on it. I'd love to watch them.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.